Well, it's 11 o'clock and good morning. You have joined us for another FDW webinar, and this time we're going to talk about the demystification of LED video displays. And I think it's a good term. We were joking about that. It can be a little mysterious. We see these things all over the place, and I know your customers are asking about them in all different shapes and sizes. Today, we have a great presenter, Rich, who's actually a two-time presenter. He's back for a return engagement here on the FDW webinars. Will be speaking to us and filling us in on some of the details, a little bit behind the curtain on how they work, how to put them together, and all about them. So we will do that. But before we launch into that, if you're a first timer to one of our webinars, a few things I would like to pass along so that you will be prepared to make best use of the webinar. There is a question feature that allows you to ask questions. We don't interrupt the presentation for it, but you can type those questions to us. I see them at this end. I'll gather them, try and be as coherent as possible in passing those along to Rich at the end of the presentation so that he can address any questions that you have. Certainly after the webinar, you can send us emails and we'll follow up on those as well. But during the webinar, we will try and address questions at the end of the regular presentation. Then the program is also being recorded. So that's useful if you have to step out to do some business, if you have a associate that you would like to have see this. We keep these things around. They're up on the website indefinitely, so you can come back to see this at another time or reference other people to do so. And then for our benefit, it is a big help if you complete the survey that happens at the end of the webinar, or actually it happens whenever you choose to fill it out. But before you leave us today, please do fill out a survey. That helps us know how to make these webinars meet your needs better. And it's a great time too to make a suggestion to us if there is a topic that you would really like to see us cover. That's a great way for us to make these things meet your needs. So if that is sufficient to allow everyone to join us, and it looks like a lot of people have. It looks like we've got a good audience for this one today. Rich is joining us from Blizzard. So Rich Anders, as I said, is our second time host here or presenter for the webinar. And he's coming to us all the way from South Texas. And he has extensive background in lighting and certainly has a rich career with a lot of lighting background. But the manufacturers of lighting products have also gotten big into the LED video wall world. And he has become quite an expert in that regard. And he will explain some things today that I think will make it a little bit easier for you to demystify the LED video wall world. So Rich, I think I've done what I need to do to officially introduce you. And at this point now we'll let the audience actually see you. So here is Rich, and thank you. I appreciate you making the trip up from South Texas. And it's a scary time of the year to have somebody come to Wisconsin from South Texas. So when you get off the airplane, how long did it take you to get over the chill factor?
I'm already tired of being cold, sir.
I'm sure. All right, well, I'll turn it over to you, and we'll come back at the end for some questions from the folks who are watching. Thank you, Rich.
Thank you, sir. So we'll start out with, what is an LED display? That seems to be the original question. So an LED display is also called a screen. You'll hear the term video wall. But technically, what an LED display is a direct view. In other words, it's not projected. You look at it directly, and it uses, obviously LEDs as its source. I think we all know what an LED is: light emitting diode, low voltage, long lasting lifespan. That's why we like them. They're also very bright. So these LEDs turn out to be, each one is a pixel. So if you understand video, you know what a pixel is. So each LED in here acts as a pixel. And together, all the pixels make up the image. The pixel count, or the amount of pixels, if you will, is how it equals the display's resolution. For example, this particular product is a 2.9 millimeter pitch video panel, LED panel. Each one of these is 168 pixels by 168 pixels. So if you wanted to do, say, 10 of these wide, 1680. 6 high or something is like 1080. That would be the resolution of your display. I always say this to start out so you understand resolution, and we can talk more about resolution, but for the display, That's how we come up with it. The pixels equal the resolution. So I always say it's all about the pixels. Everything concerning LED displays kind of breaks down to how many pixels. That determines the resolution, that determines sometimes the pitch you need. It also determines what size you end up with. And it also determines, processing, because you have to process the image via some other infrastructures we'll go into. So all about the pixels. So let's talk a little bit about types and usage. Most LED displays that most people recognize are scoreboards, some signage, certainly interior use like a lobby of a bank building, maybe something like that. You'll see them in schools. I love one particular project we did was with San Jose State University, where they put it inside a student center, and they use it for all kinds of stuff, presentations, movie nights, things like that. And that's a great example of one of the uses. Some of the other uses you'll see are, churches, house of worship is a big market for LED displays. We'll get into why here in a second, but obviously signage, house of worship, concerts, venues, things like that. You see them all over the place, like he said. So the way it kind of works, the way I like to talk about it, is start with some what I call nomenclature, i.e. some terms and some explanations. So we talked about pixel. I think we all know what that is. Let's talk about nits. These displays are each panel, as it were, has a nit rating. That rating is the brightness. So a nit equals brightness. And to give you an example, if you're a projector guy, some projector, about 1200 nits is equal to about 4500 lumens. Most of these products we're showing today or using as a demonstration are all 1200 nit. Now it's a bit of a misnomer. When a projector is projecting, it reflects off a screen. These are direct view. So even if the nits equal the lumens, the nits are going to be brighter just because it's direct view. Just something to learn. There's also parts to the units. This is called a module. A module is what the LEDs go into on a frame like this, and then the module attaches, obviously, to what we call the panel. Now, some people will call this a tile. So if you hear that term, that's the same thing. It's a panel. The parts of the product that make it work, if you will, is one of them is the receiving card. This is a receiving card right here on the back of this. You can see it. It's got a receiving card right here. What that receiving card does is map out the image to each panel. Okay. There's also a term called sending card. Obviously, the sending card sends the data to the receiving card, who deciphers it for you. One of the other things you'll hear is pitch. Pitch is the distance between the LEDs, or the pixels, on the module. So you'll hear it in terms of millimeters. What that actually means, if this is a 2.9 millimeter pitch LED panel, what that means is these pixels, LEDs, are 2.9 millimeters apart. So obviously the lower the number, 2.9, 1.9, the lower you go, the tighter the pitch. Conversely, the higher the number, the wider the pixels are. The way that applies is viewing distance, basically. If you're in a stadium and it's a scoreboard or whatever, typically the pitch on those are pretty wide. It's 10 millimeter, maybe higher, but you're 75, 100 feet away viewing distance. Whereas something like this, where we're only 30 feet away, this is a 2.9. You want to see that in that pitch so that it's viewable from a shorter distance. So let's go over some hardware real quick. Let's talk about some more about that. What you're seeing here is various different LED panels for different uses. We'll start with the one on the end. This guy here is an outdoor unit. In other words, it's IP rated. It can basically live outside, and Maybe not up here. No, I'm kidding. But it's meant to go outside. You can use it as signage, but a lot of times it's used in production. Production is rental, where you see it for a concert, corporate event, any place, you would use a projector is where you would use an LED display. So this is for outdoor. Now the difference with an outdoor and say an indoor is the nits. We discussed earlier, this is about 1,200 nits. The outdoor one is about almost 5,000 nits. Now that's super bright, but at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you need to see the image and the sun's out, this will do it. Its course is dimmable, so when it gets to nighttime, it's not blowing out and shining too bright. And that is adjustable. This one here, like I said, is basically the same product. However, it's an indoor use. These particular panels are more for, we do them for house of worship. We do them for installs, outdoor, indoor. But mainly they're bought for production, for use in a production. Again, these panels are dual purpose. They are install grade as well as use in production. Just real quick, you'll see on the back there's some latches. These latches connect the panels to each other, both top and bottom, and on each side. You'll see this side here, this particular panel, and what we offer at Iris is a concave or convex capability. So you can set the curve of it to 10 degrees or 5 degrees. So it can kick out 5 degrees like this, or it can come in 10 degrees, which is a great look, by the way. And then turn that around for you. So this particular panel, oh, and again, these are, you can fly these. When I say fly, we hang them. That's how the one on the display next to me is done. And we use a bumper. We like to call it a fly bar. But these attach to the top, which kind of makes sense, right? As you may be able to see there. And it hangs from that. That is not the only way these are used. You can also do what's called a ground stack. Ground stacking is where you put it pretty much on the ground and build it up from the floor up. There's some issues when you do that. Just one of the things, the way you do it, we do sell ground stacking supports, but a real simple way is every panel has a bolt hole in every corner, and you can actually attach a clamp and then clamp it to a piece of truss. In installs for outdoor, a lot of times we'll use unistrut with pipe, 2-inch pipe, schedule 40 or whatever, and then do the clamp to it, and that's how it's permanently mounted. This particular guy is what I call a wall mount. Wall mount, this can also be hung, but this is more designed for, again, we talked about the lobby of a bank, a museum. We're working on a project right now where they are putting these in a school rather than have a projector. And these are already, 16 by 9 size. So as you put something together with these, it's kind of easy. However many wide you need, they're 2 foot wide. However many that is would be as the same high. That way you stay 16 by 9. But what's unique about this one is the way it mounts. It's very similar for you contractor guys who have done more monitors and TVs than I wish to think of. Kind of works the same way. You take the bracket mounts to the wall, okay? And then the panel slides in here. You'll see the hole. You'll see the little clip. This clip goes into here, slides in, mounts to the wall. Just as a point of reference, these mounts also attach to each other so that they stay uniform. Then you mount the panel to it, and then you put the module on it. The modules are held on by magnets. Just about everything out there right now, no matter who makes it, tends to go with the magnetic module. The indoor product, it's pretty good magnet, stays on really well. The outdoor product, the module is, the matting is very tough. It's meant to be designed to handle wind and what have you. So you put this on the bracket, then you put the modules on it, and then you lock them together and you build your display. Excuse me. Oh. So this is a new product. This one is a 2.5 millimeter panel. And again, this one is 2.9. And then on the end is 3.9. Just a quick reference, when you're looking at LED panels, you can kind of tell when a module is designed for outdoor because you can really see this white cap on the LED, if you will, whereas these really can't see them that well. These are so bright for the outdoor, that's kind of why there's a difference, and that's what you notice. So how do these work from, say, the image to the panel? Like I said, there is processing. The processor's over here. Now, at Iris Video, we are the distributor for Novastar. So we have everything they offer, whether it be for signage, rental use, installation, whatever LED display application you have, we have a Novastar, control solution. So this particular unit, you plug in your content. It can come from a computer, it can come from anywhere. And again, it depends on what you're doing, but this particular unit's more of a universal one. It has multiple inputs and what have you, but it comes out via Cat5 cable to the display, and each panel for signal and power mostly interconnect. So you don't plug every single one of them into power. They connect to each other in a series. Same thing with the signal. When you do that, the sending card, which is in that processor, sends it to the receiving card we showed you earlier, and it deciphers the image and maps it out to the display. I know that sounds very simple. There are some other things involved with that. There is some software you can use for some calibration and what have you, but that's generally how it's done. There's a sending card, hits all the receiving cards, displays the image on the display. One of the things that I think is important to know is, how do you decide what you would need or what a customer would need regarding a display? There's several questions you need to know. One, what is the viewing distance? Because if they're going to view this display up very close, your pitch goes, to the lower number. So, your 2.9s and stuff like that. If the viewing distance is far away, then your pitch can be a larger number, and because the viewing distance is longer. The best way I can describe that is at the stadium where you see a scoreboard, and if you were standing right in front of that scoreboard, it would look like the pixels were real far apart. But again, from the other 150 feet away, other side of the arena, it looks wonderful. So you need to know what the viewing distance is. And again, what are they going to do with this? Over here, we're showing content that's video. We could also do live video if we wanted to. IMAG, as it's called in House of Worship, a lot. So the use also kind of changes what you use. You wouldn't want to use a large number pitch wall with IMAG if everything's up close, right? It wouldn't look right. Some of the other things you have to do is decide on size. Now we could do a whole webinar on just the size of an LED display. It really depends on the size of the room, how many people, and what you're doing with it. Those are all things you have to kind of figure out. But here's some rules of thumb. If you have a large venue with the typical house of worship setup with the center screen and then the side screens, 16 foot by 9 foot is pretty common size. You can go a little smaller, but that's pretty common. If it's in, a place like this, we're almost too big here with this thing. It kind of depends on the use there. Ascertaining all of that it's helpful to call somebody like myself or anyone else who kind of does this, and they can help you kind of figure out, navigate what would be the best solution for that use, for that application. The applications are endless. There's really not anything you can't do with these. Again, indoor, outdoor, watch a movie, do video, do graphics, again, signage. All of these products work for that use. So One of the things I like to talk about is how you figure out, especially house of worship, how to install it. We talked briefly about the wall mount. And again, if they want it mounted to a wall, this is a great choice for that. If they want it hung like this, there you go. This is a great choice. Now this can be hung, but these are great choices for that. If it's an outdoor application, which is either hung, ground stack, attached to a wall, to unistrut and pipe, however you're using it, then the outdoor panel is a great use for that as well, because it's super bright, does all the things you want it to do, like live outside. So today we're looking at this display here. Now this display is 24 individual panels, and they're 6 panels wide by 4 high. It looks fantastic. It's a great unit for what we're doing here. The viewing distance on this is probably less than 30 feet, and it looks fine. If we were further back, we would, if this was against the wall, we might go a little bigger, and that way you can see it further away. One of the things to learn about LED displays, especially the iris ones, is the viewing angle. The viewing angle on these products are so good that you can stand right next to it and see the view. If you're in an arena and you're sitting up in the top or in the bottom of what I call a bowl, and there's screens in the middle or on either end, the viewing angle top to bottom is typically really good too. So where you place it and all that kind of applies when you're looking at viewing angle on the sides of the room and all that. Where you put it, you can reference the view angle on it to get that. Just some quick points about these particular products. These have no fans. Now you'll find panels and modules, and you can find like some signage products, and they have fans in them to keep them cool. These do not. That way they don't make any noise. So for install in, again, a house of worship, you'll see a high-end, high-pitch, again, it's a lower number, but it's high-pitch, in medical uses all the time. They use them for imaging, and so they have a really tight pitch. It's really nice, and they don't want to hear 900 fans either. So that's kind of where it's going. The real quiet, very simple to use, very lightweight. This thing weighs 17 pounds. It comes all together. You add up all the weight, and that's how you figure out your hanging and all that. I think you guys probably know that. Lastly, the way these connect, we talked about interconnect. You'll see that on one side, you'll have the power, and we do use PowerCon. We like PowerCon. This is indoor. Our outdoor uses the True Power PowerCon, your outdoor rated PowerCon connectors. So you'll go in and out to the next panel here. On the other side is a signal. Now I know it looks like a kind of a microphone looking input, but this is a Cat5 that uses a Neutrik head, and all the cables are supplied when you do a display, and that's how they connect to each other. The bottom one is in, the top one is out, and then you just series them all up to where you have one display. Sorry. So one of the last things we'll talk about is longevity. The great thing about an LED display is you can use it where anytime you would use a projector. So a projector uses a lamp source, be it laser or a lamp, and there's a short life on those, whereas LED has a longer life. If you're in a house of worship where you have numerous maybe windows or certainly stained glass windows, they provide a lot of ambient light in the room. It's really hard to find a projector that will project that you're going to see, you know, when you have lights on the stage and ambient light in the building and windows, you know, and all that. You'd have to buy a very, very expensive projector that's super bright that allow you to do that. Whereas an LED display, regardless of its physical size and all of that, will be many times brighter. In fact, we've dimmed this particular display to about almost 10%. It's right around 9-10%. So we have 90% more to go. So we typically do that because you don't want to blow everybody away with that. You might also notice that these are super high contrast. We do what's called a blackface. Blackface is where we paint the back side of where the LED is installed black so that behind it is contrasted black. And then on top of it, we'll put what's called a mask. And the mask is also used to help with the contrast. These come off like that, and we just put them right back on. A lot of folks will screw these masks on, and then if you accidentally pull it or rub it up against something, it'll pull the LED up because it's screwed into the module, where ours just comes off, you just put it back on. Just a neat little feature of our product. So let's see here, did we miss anything? Oh yeah, the best use of this product is, again, for longevity. It's the return on investment is over a longer period of time than, say, a projector or what have you. And that gives you, you should expect to have something like this for about 10 years easy, unless you're using it all the time, but it should last quite a bit. Let's see here, did we miss anything? Looking to see if I covered everything for you guys. We talked about the sending card, the processor, the viewing distance, the pitch, the size.
Well, Rich, if you missed anything, we probably have a question on it because a couple of them have stacked up here. So,
oh, you got questions already? Well, let's
I
hear
think
them.
it was pretty comprehensive, but I have a couple of questions lined up here, actually 4 of them. So we'll take them in order here. Brent wrote in and asked, other than the obvious bezel, how do you differentiate yourself, meaning the company's product, from an LCD wall?
Well, it's two totally different things. An LCD wall is more like a television or a monitor. It uses LED, or some use it's LCD, but you know what I'm saying. There's a lamp source behind it, and then the screen in front. Yes, the bezel, for sure. Again, it's kind of a different thing. That's more of like almost a television. But he nails it with the bezel. That's the biggest one. The other thing would be viewing distance and brightness. With LCD, the viewing distance stays pretty good up close, but as you get further away, it needs to be a much larger display of LCDs. And the brightness just is not there over distance. I hope that answers that.
Yeah, definitely. And certainly outdoor applications, that makes a huge difference. Then we had a question too about lead time. So on a very, very practical standpoint, how are these things stocked, and what do you need to be planning if you're working on a project for lead time?
Well, obviously, we're here today talking about the Iris product. We're being generic about LED displays, but in terms of the Iris product, this is in stock. So we keep it in stock. There's, give me a couple of days to QC it, but that's it. There's really no lag. But in general, it takes usually somewhere between 30 and 90 days for delivery. So if you're doing a installation under the assumption that you're going to have it made and shipped over to you, then give yourself that month, 60 days or so, in order to make that happen. And again, with us, I mean, it's in stock, so it doesn't really apply to us, but it does apply across the industry.
Yep, and of course, not all lines are stocked the same, and these are generally not made in Cleveland, so these take a while to get here. And
correct.
Very useful. All right, then a very practical question has to do with getting information. So they're asking where they can go to get more detailed information, websites, and the extent, are there any special resources that they have available to them?
Yes, we're starting the Iris video or iris.video website. That website has a wall calculator. Now what that does is it allows you to put in the size that you're looking for, the pitch that you're looking for, and then it automatically draws it out for you. Gives you the number of units or panels, what type of processor you might need based on the pixel count, and pretty much everything you would need to kind of figure out, even a little bit of cost. It'll kind of give you an idea of cost. I mean, the costs are up and down all over, but it'll give you a round idea. And then to go a step further, there's also a link that takes you to a financial services company that we partner with that will tell you, oh, well, how much, give me that round number, and then based on current interest rates, and they're just assuming you have, regular credit, it'll give you a payment plan based on how many years back you want to pay it. Really nice tool, especially for the house of worship market and production folks who are looking to purchase. A quick thing on that, on production, a lot of folks always ask me, well, what do I rent it for? What's my rental charge for this? The rule of thumb is 10% of your purchase price. That's your rental cost. That's just the rule of thumb. It's more somewhere and less other places, but I just wanted to put that in there. Lastly, I mentioned that we're the Novistar distributor. Novistar, we offer training with Novistar 5 times a year typically. We do one in Milwaukee, we'll do one in Dallas, we'll do one in Orlando, Seattle, and then probably somewhere on the upper East Coast. I haven't really decided yet for this year, but that's how we do that. And that's very good information. You can also get from the website, the things you need, like files for the different modules, software to, calibrate these and to set them up and all that. And a lot of information on there. And at this very precise moment, it's a little bit of a work in progress, but it should be up really soon. All those things should be available soon.
And that's a very good segue. Actually, I answered the question to some degree, but we had someone that wrote in to ask about training for installers and if there's certifications involved and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. We do have a certification course. It's called ICE. ICE stands for Iris Certified Engineer. And when you take the course, by the end of the course, you will have the capability of, you'll know everything you need to know. How to repair, how to maintenance, how to set them up, build them, calibrate them. It goes over quite a bit. And it's a very hardware oriented, works on, how you figure out how many circuits you need based on 20 amp circuits and what voltage you're using, 208 volt and 110 volt. Don't want to get too in the weeds here, but it goes a lot into that. And then a nice additional training to that I mentioned just before this, the Novistar. Learning Novistar and how it works is essential, because it's not just from our product or someone else's product. It's for all product. I mean, 99% of every LED display out there is processed by Novistar. So it didn't hurt to know it, because even if it's not for you, you can help other people. And just real quick, the way we do the ICE certification, you get your certificate, you get your t-shirt and all that. But the idea is that when a house of worship or something like that contacts us and they say, hey, I'm in Oklahoma City and we have it in our museum and there's an issue, and what do we do? And we say, well, let's look at our ICE certification list. And oh, lo and behold, we've got 3 guys local that have taken our course. We'll refer them to them, and then there you go. They can help them out.
That's excellent. And the last question we've got is also kind of a maintenance question, or maintenance related question. Kyle writes in, he says, we've seen certain panels from other manufacturers that lose pixels due to handling during installation and transportation. And the question is, have you experienced pixel loss during installation? And what sort of service do you offer for panels that need work? How do you remedy that?
Well, for us, we do it a little bit different, but for us, we don't, yes, of course, we do have the occasional pixel issue. Now, I mentioned earlier in the presentation about the removable mask. That goes a long way to prevent that from happening. And what he's talking about is when these 2 panels come together, say, and we're going to put them together, you're going back and forth like this, and and they're kind of scratching each other and they're pushing out. And what happens is it'll pull it up and you'll lose an LED. The other way they do it is from the bottom. Well, that was fun. From the bottom, where it touches the ground when it's being set down before it's installed. If you leave this on the ground and you push it forward like this, well, you're just crushing the LED against the concrete or whatever floor you're using. For our products, we use this. Has 2 functions. It acts as a stand, so we don't crush the LED when we set it down, and it's also an interlock between the 2 panels.
That's excellent. And Rich, from the control room boys, there was a question just came in now. Could you drop all the panels just to see if they hold up now?
Yeah, actually, believe it or not, the one that fell is our inside panel, and there's no modules on it. So, I mean, believe me, it's fine. You don't want to drop modules. That's what you learn about. And I'll be honest with you, 99% of the issues maintenance-wise you have with LED displays are normally software related. In other words, the color's off, the blacks don't look right, the brightness is weird or whatever. There's a module issue. One module might look completely different than the rest, and that's where the software comes in. And we walk people through that all the time. You learn that when you take our training, but certainly we support you on it. The other issue is, again, like he said, the modules. We do not ask you to send us the module, let us repair it, and send it back to you. That's going to take too long. So what we do is just replace. We just replace it. And honestly, our return rate is so low because of some of these things we did that it's just easier to replace it. And then once I get a decent amount of modules to repair, then we'll repair them all and save them for that longevity down the road when you'll need it. And then on the receiving cards, like this guy, it's pretty rare that something would happen with this, but as you can see, it's 2 screws and you just put it back on. That's pretty much it. I mean, if you're a production company and you're building them up and down every day, you do have latches. Maybe the pin falls out, there's a spring, and it depends on how you treat them, to be honest. They do come 6 to a case. That's why I wanted to point out the case here. This is a molded case. I like the molded case. It can take a hit and just bounce off and not break. The 6 panels fit in there really tight, so you don't have any of this when it's moving. It's a great way to move them around if you need to.
Rich, that's excellent. I don't see any additional questions that have come in. And oh, wait. Yes, here's one that's just popped up. All right. So Brent has written in. He said, what is the hour rating on the panels?
Hour rating?
Hour rating.
100,000.
100,000 hours. Okay.
Yeah. That's just to get into that real quick. You'll see this power supply. We use a power supply that is rated higher than you'll ever see wattage wise from the product. That helps us maintain our ETL listing, just FYI. As long as you're not, again, it's like lighting. As long as you're not overdriving the LED, you're not losing, hours of life. But it's typically 100,000 hours for LED displays.
And I think that does get us to the bottom of the list on the questions. Rich, thank you. That was very comprehensive, and I learned a bunch, which isn't saying very much for me, but I think most of the people that tuned in got their questions answered. I think that's outstanding.
I sure hope so. I hope that was somewhat helpful. And like I said, demystify. It's not that confusing.
And thank you for being the first of our presenters to be here twice. And as you promised, you said each time you do it, you're going to get better and better at it, which is great. So this was a good one today. Thank you, Rich. And before everybody clicks off and goes back to their regular assigned duties today, please do fill out the survey at the end. That does help us make these webinars as useful as possible. We thank you for joining us, and they will be presented to the public on an ongoing basis on our website. So if you go to the FTW website, you can have access to this and all the other webinars that we've done historically. Rich, thank you for coming, and safe trip back to Texas. And the next time you come, I hope it's this summer.
Thank you, sir. And if anyone has any questions, I believe there's a way to get a hold of me via our website. So if there's any more needed, just hit me up.
Absolutely. The FTW folks are standing by to answer those questions, and anything we need to refer, we will certainly come back to you with an answer on those. Thank you for joining us. That concludes our webinar.